Playing the gentle. I don't think anybody's told Rhino he shouldn't be going this fast indoors as he enters his final lap in the lead in Heat 2. Perhaps it's the money, of course, having missed so much of the European season. He's looking to top up his pockets here in the MGM Grand. Hotel and casino. Would you believe it's the biggest hotel in the world, 5,005 rooms. And this 10,000 packed house capacity audience has quite a number of guest visitors and stars. Number 36 there is Jason McCormick, casting an anxious glance over his left shoulder to check out the leader as Rhino Hughes goes past to take Heat 2. So Ricky Carmichael takes Heat 1, Rhino Hughes takes Heat 2. And we're all nicely warmed up for what is a potentially epic confrontation here at the MGM Grand. There's also 4-stroke class and an 80cc youth division. A Honda top 4. Hughes takes it from Michael Byrne, Mike LaRocco and Sebastian Tortelli, who got back on his Honda and back past Greg Schnell. We'll take a quick break. Welcome back to the MGM Grand in Las Vegas for the first night final here in the US Open of Supercross. 13 riders on the line. Unlucky for some, but possibly not for Ricky Carmichael, who is so good at making that inside gate tell. Look at the way he can turn that Kawasaki on a sixpence, and he once more emerges at the front. Damon Huffman and Kevin Windham, the Suzuki duo, once more battling over second place. Mike LaRocco, Rhino Hughes have got the Hondas into 4th and 5th places off the start. Oh, and messing one another up there, the two Suzukis. And that gives Ricky Carmichael carte blanche to extend an immediate 6-bike length advantage. Huffman, always a cool stylist, the 1997 world champion. Interesting contrast with the new boy at Suzuki there, Kevin Windham. Mike LaRocco, a much better start than usual, has given himself a sporting chance. Got out of the blocks virtually with the leaders. What can he do from that position instead of trying to hammer his way through the pack from way downfield? Carmichael has really rather taken off, hasn't he? Adjusted so very quickly to the 250. The kid from Florida, whose career has been guided by the once majestic former Supercross champion of the USA, Johnny Osho O'Mara. Mike LaRocco head down and hammering across the whoops. His career, of course, dates back to when Johnny Osho was still around. He goes for the inside line and makes a pass on Damon Huffman. So Huffman doesn't look a likely winner here of the US Open, which he took the first edition of in 1998. LaRocco through into 3rd place. Rhino Hughes closing down on Damon Huffman. Huffman from Acton, California. And this guy from South Bend, Indiana. And he's got a bit of catching up to do because this little kid, Ricky Carmichael, yet another flying freckle. Similar in build and stature to Jeff Ward, who won 8 national titles for Kawasaki. And this kid's already won 4 for Kawasaki. I wonder how many more he's got in the bag at the age of 20. Kevin Windham, twice West Coast Supercross champion for Yamaha. Mike LaRocco, formerly runner-up in the US 250cc Supercross series behind Jeremy McGrath back in '94. Windham certainly adapted very quickly to the Suzuki. He looks very cool and relaxed on it. Windham, who's still only 21, he's been around for a long time, hasn't he? Made a big impact with Yamaha as a 16-year-old. Finished 2nd in the US Outdoor 125cc series that first year that he won the West Coast Supercross Championship. And he was 2nd again in the 125 Outdoors. Champion again of the 125 West Region Supercross Series in 1997. Carmichael really destroyed the opposition during the course of this year's 250 Outdoor Nationals. He won 9 times against 1 win for Sebastian Tortelli, 2 wins for David Villeman. So on that team Chevy Trucks Kawasaki, he really did blow the opposition away, the kid from Havana in Florida. Wyndham looking really polished. I suppose that's what we ought to expect. He's always looked polished. He just doesn't always have the focus, the determination, the motivation to win the races and the championships that he should have done. He was runner-up, of course, in the outdoor 250cc motocross series in 1999, and then third this year behind this kid. Carmichael leads. Second place Wyndham, third place Larocco. And they really have left the rest behind. Damon Huffman is still there in fourth place, but it's a long way back in fourth place. And Rhino Hughes has struck problems. Steve Lampson has come through to fifth on the Husqvarna. And number 50's in there as well, Factory Phil Lawrence. Showing strongly on that blue Yamaha. That's a good showing from Lawrence. He's been a not quite American star for many years now. It's an impressive ride from him. He's ahead of Michael Byrne there, and he hammers up the inside. Stuffs a block pass right underneath the Husqvarna, but I don't think Lammy's going to take that sitting down. Here he comes back, the former double 125cc American motocross champion. Doubles his way around the outside. What a majestic move, and retakes Phil. Notice that they use the tunnels outside the arena here, very Bercy-like, which is probably not surprising because the organizer of this event, the US Open of Supercross, is none other than American import Eric Peronnard. Eric Peronnard, a Frenchman who was involved in the heyday of Bercy in the 1980s when it first kicked off in 1984. He worked for the La Riviere organization, so he knows firsthand how to put on the best Supercross in the world. He was the guy who worked on bringing it right here under the noses of the extraordinarily rich in Las Vegas, Nevada, in the MGM Grand. What an amazing place to have a Supercross. Former 500cc Grand Prix rider Rob Andrews here in Las Vegas to enjoy this event. And he was bubbling with excitement afterwards. Said it was just a great atmosphere. But they're a relatively quiet crowd compared to the French. If you had a Frenchman leading, as we saw David Villemang doing in Bercy, then every time he bursts back into the arena, the crowd goes completely berserk. And here, the Americans are relatively restrained as they watch Florida's Ricky Carmichael beginning to dominate the Saturday final. Whoops-a-daisy, and that looked like Lampson who'd gone down on the Husqvarna, frantically trying to kick it back into action. What a shame, such a good ride. Looked like he was going to have a good solid position, and of course quite a pocket full of money, because it's not just the winner that gets plenty of money here. £100,000 for the winner, 35 grand for second overall on the 2 days, £20,000 for third. And this is Mike Larocco, who's chasing down those podium positions at the moment. £13,000 for fourth and 10 grand for fifth place, and so on down the line. So there's quite a bit of money to be had. But of course, the big pot of gold won by Jeff Emig in 1999 and by Damon Huffman in 1998 is that $100,000 first prize. Carmichael, who won his first 250cc main in the semi-outdoor circuit at Daytona, Florida during Daytona Speed Week last year, beg your pardon, earlier this year, has obviously learned a lot about his Supercross since then. He regards himself as primarily an outdoor rider, as does that man ahead of him there, who he's about to lap now, Ryan Hughes. But Ricky's been working on his indoor technique, and it's paying off. Certainly paying off here in Las Vegas. Carmichael eventually finished fifth in the US Supercross Series this year. That one win in Daytona was backed up with a second place in round 5 at Houston, Texas. He also had a third place in Phoenix, Arizona. And another third place in round 10 at St. Louis. So Carmichael was quietly getting to grips during the Supercross series with that 250cc Kawasaki. But look at the lead he's got over Suzuki new boy Kevin Windham. Kadu could just be in for an impressive season next year on this Suzuki. If he's this good when he hasn't had the chance to practice and get accustomed to it, what's he going to be like when he's really had a bit of time? Lammy's already been lapped, and this is now the battle for 4th place. Damon Huffman, number 16, is also downfield. That's Johnny Dowd. And the man chasing Huffman is Heath Voss, riding number 26 on the Honda, ahead of Yamaha's Greg Schnell. So some of the youngsters beginning to shine through. Heath Voss from Prior Lake, Minnesota. Johnny Dowd, disproving all the theories about the fact that you get old for motocross or supercross in the States once you pass 30. But of course he was a very, very late starter. He looks cool, doesn't he? And that Kawasaki outfit. Damon Huffman won't be going home with quite as much money in his pocket this time around, I don't think. But he's looking good across those whoops. Rumour has it that he's signed for Motor World next year. So that may put him on a Yamaha. Because once again, he's a Suzuki rider who hasn't quite produced the results that team manager Roger Da Costa would have liked to see. Mike LaRocco now beginning to close down on Kevin Windham for that 2nd place. Windham feeling the heat from the Indiana Rocket. Can he resist? LaRocco, as ever, getting stronger and stronger. Michael Allen LaRocco, originally from LaPorte, Indiana, now lives in South Bend, and he takes the lead. Or rather, I beg your pardon, snatches 2nd place. The leader's way, way ahead. LaRocco goes through to 2nd place, which will be a good position to launch his Sunday attack from. Start off with runner-up on Saturday and see what you can manage on Sunday here in Las Vegas. Of course, there's the big party to look forward to on Sunday night as well in Club 54. All the superstars of Supercross, Las Vegas, Hollywood and beyond gather for a good old knees up on the Sunday evening. So LaRocco now, he's moved quickly away, and despite an imploring boardman there, Kevin Windham can't do much about it. You know that LaRocco's going to get stronger rather than weaker as a race goes on. And here's Carmichael lapping Steve Lampson. He's also lapped Michael Byrne. So Carmichael really is on a very, very hot streak on that 250. His confidence sky high after his victory in the 250 Nationals. He's lapped Larry Ward. He's heading to lap Greg Schnell, who's lying in 6th place. Ward is lying 7th or 8th. So it's a destructive performance around this tight little track from Carmichael. Suffered the huge disappointment of representing the USA at that dreadful wet Motocross the Nations at Fox Hill in England in 1998, when the American team really and literally got washed away in the mud. But then he came back this year at Saint-Jean d'Angely, and alongside Rhino Hughes and Travis Pastrana, who's absent from this event because he's injured his leg. Carmichael led the US team to victory in some style, although he did lose out in a rather epic third-race confrontation with Sebastian Tortelli. Tortelli out to appease the home crowd in France. And despite a couple of extremely naughty moves pulled by Ricky Carmichael, he hadn't quite got what it took to keep Tortelli behind him. I'm told that Carmichael, he does seem quite a sweet little character, the sandy-haired little lad from Florida. But his desire to win rather got the better of him on that occasion. And all these guys have been lapped, and good guys they are too. One of them sending a hay bale flying, and we still hadn't got a glimpse of the 2nd place man as these boys, Michael Byrne, Rhino Hughes and the rest, came hammering through. This is Kevin Windham, he's third. And Damon Huffman is beginning to close him down. Huffman, who lost Windham and let him go a bit early on, is beginning to come back at him. The tall, willowy Damon Huffman, for several years a star with Kawasaki, is now beginning to close down on Kevin Windham. As you heard the course commentator say, there's only 5 riders left on the same lap now as Ricky Carmichael. You can see from the course conditions here the experience of Eric Perronard in those early days at Bercy. Superb circuit. The ground, no ruts developing at all. That's Buddy Antunez playing the gentleman there and letting Carmichael sling comfortably around the outside of him. Antunez lying in 7th place, ahead of that man Larry Ward and that man Michael Byrne and that man Rhino Hughes. So there's some prodigious racing going on for the places, because of course it all boils down to pounds, shillings and pence on the weekend. $35,000 to Kevin Windham. Ricky Carmichael wins the first night here in Las Vegas. 2nd place goes to Mike LaRocco, and this is the battle for 3rd. Huffman hunting down Kevin Windham, but he just gets the power down a bit too quick, a bit too hastily, and loses his momentum. Huffman has to settle for 4th place then, behind Kevin Windham. So a good start to Windham's Suzuki career after his years with Yamaha and Honda. But this is the man who has won it. Ricky Carmichael takes victory in the US Open for Kawasaki. LaRocco, Windham, Huffman and Heath Voss, an excellent 5th on his Honda. Welcome back to the MGM Grand in Las Vegas for Sunday evening's action. Heat 1. And it's that little guy, Ricky Carmichael, taking that tight line. Will it work for him this time? It usually does. And once again, he emerges at the front, ahead of Kevin Windham, who tailed him in 3rd place in the first night final. Larry Ward, the big bird, has come through into 3rd place. So 2 Kawasaki's in the top 3. Carmichael at the front, Windham chasing him. Now Windham looking like a man on a mission here, not letting Carmichael get away straight away and actually showing him his front wheel as if he thinks he can get the better of him. Well, these 2 boys will have had an early night last night. Got themselves plenty of kip in preparation for the hammering they're going to give themselves around this superb little track here in front of another 10,000 eager fans. Many of whom, of course, will be seeing Supercross for the first time. It's not every day it comes to the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. In fact, it's just the 3rd occasion in the past 3 years. But now well established as the big cherry at the end of the US season. Carmichael leads, Windham in 2nd place. But already the yellow flags are out. Somebody stalled right at the end of the whoops. Not a very good place to be parked. And look at Windham risking his head being knocked off by the Kawasaki's back wheel then as he tried to cut tight. And Ricky just exploded across the double. It's one thing that Ricky Carmichael has always been fond of, and that's plenty of airtime. Famous for his whips and his pancakes. Look at the way he's turning that Kawasaki. Like so many short men, of course, he doesn't want to put his feet down too often because he can't always reach the deck. So the best thing to do, keep those feet pinned, turn tight and squirt it. You need to have a lot of confidence to do that, and he's certainly bubbling with it at the moment. Of course, we've always known that he could ride Supercross, but that was on a 125. He was the East Regional Supercross champion of the US in 1998 on his Pro Circuit Kawasaki. But in 1999, only 16th in the US 250cc Supercross series with lots of crashes and plenty of injuries. Didn't look as if he was going to acquit himself to a 250 as handily as this. This is a rousing race. Oh, and a bit of a mistake from the K-Dube there, just cost him a couple of bike lengths. These two guys have really broken well clear of the pack. Larry Ward back in third place. 30 years old now. Also formerly, of course, a runner-up in the 250cc US Supercross Championship back in 1995 when he was riding a private Nolene Yamaha. And Carmichael beginning to escape. He's setting such a searing pace, even in the heat, which he does not, of course, need to win, except that he's completely motivated by winning. And he's broken a good dozen bike lengths clear at the front now. And he's beginning to take on the air of the unbeatable around this tight Las Vegas track. Chevy Truck Kawasaki, winner of the first night here, heading for his third race win out of 3. Because the heat winner is translated straight to the main. We've also got 4-stroke racing going on. We've also got 80cc youth going on. And in the 80cc youth division, incidentally, there was a French kid who's the 80cc champion of Europe who got 3rd place. Pretty good stuff for his sole visit to the USA. So there are more French kids coming, even though the French Supercross Championship is actually not in very healthy shape just now. And the last round in Marseille was cancelled, leaving Thierry Bettis and Eric Sorby as the 250cc and 125cc French champions, respectively. Buddy Antunez is now due to be lapped by Carmichael. So the Arena Cross champion about to fall into the grasp of a potential US Supercross champion. The newlywed Kevin Windham finally tied the knot with his long-standing sweetheart earlier this year. Ricky Carmichael, I think his long-standing sweetheart is his mum. His lovely mum has always been his greatest supporter and fan. And he seems to be showing a little respect for Buddy Antunez by not actually lapping him. I think Buddy might appreciate the rest. And there goes the famous Ricky Carmichael whip here in Las Vegas. #1 again, 3 race wins out of 3. Heat win on Saturday and then the final. Heat win on Sunday and then the final. Well, it's a distinct possibility, isn't it? If Kevin Windham can't get close to him, who can? Windham finishes a distant 2nd, Larry Ward 3rd, Isaiah Johnson a surprise 4th place, and Tyler Evans in 5th. On to Heat 2. The first man out at the front is Greg Schnell, number 63. Ahead of Rhino Hughes, Steve Lamson, Mike LaRocco, who's getting the starts for a change here. So all the expected fast guys come out of the trap. The unexpected one at the front, Greg Schnell of all people. Schnell finished 3rd in the West Coast Supercross Championship this year. Behind Shea Bentley and David Pingree. 2 victories. So he's certainly no mug on a 125. Unfortunately, he didn't back those victories up with much in the way of consistent results. But he's obviously quick. Hughes in 2nd place. Oh, Rhino trying to take out a startled photographer who was perched just behind the bales there, thinking he was safe on the inside of the turn. LaRocco is into 3rd place. Lamson 4th. Michael Byrne 5th. LaRocco, the runner-up yesterday. The man most likely, perhaps, to upset the Carmichael apple cart. If he can get away with him, or even, dare I say, ahead of him in the final. But first, of course, he's got to qualify. The 250cc Husqvarna of Steve Lamson, isn't it looking impressive? Lammy, of course, has never really made that big an impact as a 250cc Supercross rider. Twice an outdoor 125cc motocross champ for Honda. But he's never really got better than, I think it was about 5th place. Back in 94, 93 and 94, he was 5th in the 250cc Supercross series. And that, of course, for the factory Honda team. But the quiet man from Riverside, California, quiet family man, who worked hard to get his own private team together with help from just about everybody he could think of, to ride the 125 Nationals, and ended up in 5th place. He now lives in Murrieta, California. Greg Schnell, surprise package at the front. He's in the lead. Second, Rhino Hughes coming under pressure from Mike LaRocco. Can LaRocco find a way through? They're followed by Steve Lamson, Michael Byrne from Toowoomba in Australia, the guy in 5th place. Rhino Hughes, so impressive. He must have been practicing his Supercross before this event, but of course he's had plenty of time off, having missed the large part of the Motocross Grand Prix season with that broken wrist. The surprise leader then, Greg Schnell, ahead of Rhino Hughes and LaRocco. Greg Schnell from Rancho Cucamonga, California, on the Motor World of El Cajon Yamaha, a surprise Heat 2 winner here on the Sunday evening at Las Vegas. Well, he looks cool and calm about it, doesn't he? That's a really impressive performance. So he wins it ahead of Rhino Hughes, Mike LaRocco, Steve Lamson and Australian Michael Byrne. Welcome back for the second night final here at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, the US Open of Supercross, the 3rd annual running of it. 13 men on the start line. Watch out for that little guy on the inside, Ricky Carmichael. Oh, and Michael Byrne has put himself right into the hay bales on the outside, so the Australian, knowing the start was desperately important, went for it round the outside, didn't quite make it. Larry Ward is second. 3rd place, that man Greg Schnell, the second heat winner. And 4th place, Heath Voss. So 2 of the unlikely lads in the top 4 already. This could be an interesting race, but unfortunately, or fortunately for him, Ricky Carmichael has a clear track ahead of him. He's got teammate Larry Ward for company, but for how long can the big bird hang in there? Because the guy who's, well, Larry's a 6'3" wooden upright, and the guy that he's chasing is, a foot shorter. What a contrast in styles. Greg Schnell is there in 3rd place. 4th place being contested between Kevin Windham and Heath Voss. That's Mike LaRocco going through past Rhino Hughes into 6th place. So a surprising start for Heath Voss from Prior Lake, Minnesota, number 26. He's ahead of Mike LaRocco. LaRocco, who finished 2nd on the first night, and would certainly like to get himself back into that position again if he could. Here comes Windham attacking Greg Schnell. Oh, and tries to dive underneath him. It was almost the perfect move, but he just lost a bit of drive as he pitched the Suzuki underneath. Can he do it this time? No. So a great battle going on between Windham and Schnell, behind the 2 Kawasaki leaders. Schnell looking very, very impressive indeed. Could he be a surprise package for 2001 on the bigger stadiums that they use for the US Supercross series? They have got some of them, of course, smaller stadiums like the Kingdome in Seattle, Washington, with roofs on them. But mostly they take place in huge outdoor stadia. Oh, look at Kevin Windham. How close can you get without contact? Wow. He's diving all ways around, isn't he? If there's a way that he can find to take a different line, well, that's the way he's going to find a way past, and he knows he needs to, because Heath Voss and Mike LaRocco are right there behind him, and he comes to an absolute standstill and then fires the Suzuki once again and takes that very tight line through the whoops. I think he might have him this time. The perfect block pass, no contact actually made. Perhaps they just kissed boot buckles, and that was about it. So Greg Schnell, after a valiant battle, gets pushed back into 4th place, just ahead of Heath Voss and Mike LaRocco, the 2 Hondas. Heath Voss finished 10th in the 250cc AMA Supercross Championship Series this year. 107 points, just behind Larry Ward and John Dowd. A very impressive performance indeed. And there he is, getting him on right under the feet almost of Mike LaRocco on the factory connection Honda. Heath Voss had his best race in the very last round right here in Las Vegas in that 250 Supercross Series. So he's obviously getting to grips with the bigger bike. And he's certainly giving LaRocco a hard time at the moment behind him, and Greg Schnell a hard time in front of him. Difficult game to play. The great Jean-Michel Bale says you can't really practice for Supercross because you can't practice with people all around you all the time, flying past you at level with your head. Oh, what centre punching you like that. Heath Voss just forcing inside Greg Schnell. And that was a really mean, no-holds-barred pass. So through into 4th place, Heath Voss past Greg Schnell. Mike LaRocco's looking at these kids, all guns blazing ahead of him, and wondering what he can do to deal with them. Rhino Hughes just behind him. So it's a dramatic racing going on behind the leaders here in Las Vegas on night 2. The 3rd annual US Open. A packed house of 10,000 fans. And this is the leader. The intense competition of indoor Supercross. Just never a moment to draw breath and relax. So many obstacles to be tackled. Michael Byrne has already been lapped, paid the penalty for that rash attempt to get round the outside into the first turn. Obviously felt that he had no choice, but the Australian has gone into the bails and finds himself a lap down already. Larry Ward keeping Ricky Carmichael in sight, and of course as long as he can do that, then he keeps his 2nd place secure. But all the time the chasing pack, Wyndham, LaRocco, Voss, Schnell and even Stevie Lampson could begin to threaten. I don't think somehow they'll be threatening this kid. I think that Jeremy McGrath is going to be in for some red-hot opposition in the 2001 Supercross season. And already Kevin Wyndham, this man Michael Byrne has lapped. Kevin Wyndham beginning to close on Larry Ward. Wyndham, having worked so hard to get 3rd place off Greg Schnell, is now closing on Larry Ward. Roger DaCosta has always admired Wyndham, and he's finally managed to get him onto the factory Suzuki, where of course he's been team boss for a few years now. He's seen Wyndham make his name at Yamaha and then move on to Honda, part company with them. And here he is in that lovely Travis Pastrana red and yellow Suzuki gear, chasing that superb black-clad Kawasaki figure of Larry Ward. Ward, originally from Everett, Washington, now resides in Florence, South Carolina, 30 years old. And he's now got Kevin Wyndham breathing down his neck and going for the inside. Ooh, Wyndham, what a... Well, that was an optimistic attempt at a pass there. But what Kevin's been doing is he knows that this is a very tight arena, and he's... Oh, and Ryan O'Hughes has gone down after a collision with Damon Hoffman. Hughes, who's been in riding so impressively all weekend, and you can see Hoffman's bike number 20 there as well, his Suzuki, are coming together in the whoops between Damon Hoffman and Rhino Hughes, has left Hughes unconscious on the track. But the race is going on. At least he's fairly much over to the relatively unused right-hand side of the whoops. Mind you, having said that, Kevin Windham uses that right-hand side of the whoops to make passes, but he doesn't need to this time because that was the tightest of passes and the neatest of passes on Larry Ward. Windham had a look at that, didn't he, on the last lap? And he'd obviously decided it was a possibility. Now he's had to change his line across the whoops because they're using Rhino Hughes' Honda to protect the fallen rider. Kevin Windham neatly through to second place. Well, that will certainly give him second overall. At the moment ahead of Mike LaRocco. And that would mean a cool 35,000 bucks in his pocket. Kevin Windham, second. Larry Ward, number 10, third. Ricky Carmichael, number 4, in the lead. The riders, of course, they're all pals off the track, or at least most of them are. So there'll be some concern over whether Rhino Hughes is okay. Well, in fact, the news comes through that Rhino Hughes he is unconscious and he may have broken his jaw. But eventually, they do manage to bring him round, and by the end of this race, he's okay. He knows where he is, what day it is. And Greg Schnell must have hit problems because he has now been lapped by Ricky Carmichael. Even though he's in contention for 7th place in the race, Schnell gets lapped because Carmichael is setting such a blistering pace. We could do with him slowing down, really. He's making this into a rather dull event. Come on, Ricky, this isn't what we wanted. But Ricky R.C. Carmichael isn't into the slowing down game. He's just out there to win. Look at that, it's absolute blue groove in that right-hand hairpin. Very, very slick indeed as he spins that Kawasaki round. Ricky Carmichael heading for the second night victory here at Las Vegas, which will guarantee him 100,000 bucks. And on the present exchange rate, of course, that's a pretty solid amount of pound sterling as well. But I'll leave you guys at home to work that one out because my maths just aren't up to it. Carmichael, who didn't come to Bercy this year, having broken his collarbone at Bercy in 1999, which affected his preparation for the Supercross season, and perhaps led to him having quite a few prangs during the early stages of the 250 US Supercross series. John Dowd, he's broken his collarbone here in Las Vegas. Sebastian Tortelli's bashed himself about a bit with a couple of huge get-offs on Saturday night. And Phil Lawrence also, after looking good in the early stages of Saturday's final, he had a mega get-off and bruised his hip and has had to retire from this event on Sunday. But this guy is not letting his concentration slip one bit. You can see Buddy Antonez and Greg Schnell ahead of him. But I shouldn't think he's too bothered about them. He'll only get focused on them when they get a bit nearer to him, and he might have the small problem of lapping them. Carmichael definitely looking as if he could go on on this sort of form to equal the 8 national championships taken by Kawasaki's previous flying freckle in the 1980s, Jeff Ward, who now, of course, is a leading IndyCar driver in the States, and very impressive too. Still small, still freckled, just a bit plumper, and still, incidentally, on a British passport, because he was born, of course, in Glasgow. And when he was 2 years old, Jeff Ward was shifted off to California by his dad, Jack, who worked in the oil business. And Mike LaRocco has come through into 3rd place, demoting Larry Ward. Well, that's not too good for Ward's confidence, and it's not too good for his pocket either. And that'll push Ward down. It should ensure that LaRocco is 3rd overall and pockets $20,000. And it means that Ward, he'll get pushed back to, I think, 5th overall, 10,000 bucks. Larry Ward. I said, why are you still doing this, buffeting yourself about at the age of 30? And he said, well, there's nothing else I can do. So no other way I can think of earning a living. So he chooses the Lasonic 6'3" bean pole, chooses to the guy who finally became King of Percy after 10 years of trying last year. And then didn't bother coming this year. And he's also won the fast cross at Arsago Seprio in Italy on several occasions. That great late season outdoor supercross event that brings together the best of Europe and the USA. He's got a tremendous record there. Ricky Carmichael, what a year he's had. Outdoor 250cc US motocross champion, winner of the Motocross des Nations for the USA, and now looking like he's going to be winner of both nights of the US Open Supercross and pocket that cool 100 grand. Looks like he's going to lap Michael Byrne a second time, but of course you want to keep going because you'll still have a little bit of money in your pocket at the end of the night. Must be like glass, that little tight right-hander, but it doesn't stop Ricky just skittling that back wheel round. And they've got Rhino Hughes is up and off the track. That's good news. He's got some liver damage as well, but in fact he just spends a couple of days in hospital and then they release him. So things weren't as bad as they looked there. For Ricky Carmichael, they're just as good as they look. And there he goes, tying himself in knots across the finishing line, punching the air in sheer exultation. 10,000 people cheer him on. Ricky Carmichael has won the 3rd US Open of Supercross here at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. He's got every right to be pleased with that. Kevin Windham 2nd, Mike LaRocco 3rd, Larry Ward in 4th, and Heath Moss a splendid 5th. I'm Jack Bernicle. I hope you've enjoyed this as much as Ricky Carmichael has. That was the US Open.